Hi, I'm Neil Jennings and I've spent my entire career in IT, with initially 30 years in development. Moving into testing and being familiar with structured programming, I searched for a structured approach to test design. I encountered a number of testing techniques, such as equivalence partitioning, boundary value checks, but nothing as methodical as I would like. Eventually, I came across the idea of using organization charts to represent the test cases. So each branch of the tree is a test case, and the branching points represent the test conditions. Requirements can be associated with each separate test case or with groups of test cases. Now, for this demonstration, I decided to use a feature file from the web. Unfortunately, it turned out to be incorrect, inaccurate, and inconsistent. Still, it'll work for a demonstration. So each set or test, each feature is owned by an executive shape, which will hold the description. So how do we initialize a test set? The Trantor Test Designer is an add-in to Visio. So we go to the add-ins menu tab and choose main. And here we see a button, new test set or feature. It may ask you to select a language, and we choose Gherkin as the example we're using is a Gherkin feature file. Org charts are strict hierarchies, and you could create the structure yourself in the usual way by dragging org shape onto the chart and dragging and dropping them to connect them up. However, these will not have the right mouse menu commands required by Trantor. As you can see, there are only a minimal number of functions there, whereas on the Trantor shapes we have a lot more functions. So we won't drag or drop shapes. So now to the features. Feature file description can be pasted straight into the owning executive. The next item in the feature file is the acceptance criteria, which we will use requirements, as there's nothing else in the file which indicates the requirements. We'll put these park these under a vacancy shape, which means they don't get processed in the test case generation. Now these are not in the right format for Trantor requirements, so there is a small function which will convert them. The next step in the feature file is the background. So the background is a precondition for all test cases, and therefore should come at the top of the tree. We're now ready to insert the scenario. We can remove unwanted shapes that are not part of our script. and put the scenario description into the description shape. Now this is a perfectly valid script, but it would be clearer if we change these into separate steps. And we put the requirement in relevant to this test. And we're now ready to generate our test script. Once again, we go to the add-in and we choose test scripts. You can see we've generated one test script. The Quality Center version can be seen in a preview tab. And will be written to a CSV file. And that's all there is. In part 2, we'll look at using tables and variables. Now we've seen the essential idea of making scripts using Visio, we'll move on to using tables and variables. The script we're using contains a scenario with a table and feature file variables which are held within less than greater than signs. So we go back to our Visio diagram and insert a new script. And we'll run the renumber facility because we don't want two scripts with the same numbers. Now we need somewhere to park our table. We use consultant shapes for this. And our test script. Now, Trantor variables are not the same format as Gherkin variables. Gherkin variables are only, or feature file variables are only local to the script. Trantor also uses global variables and built-in constants. So there's a function here to convert the formats to Trantor format. These variables will be filled by the different values in the tables. for the various variable names. And we remove the unwanted steps as before. And we'll put in a requirement variable. And the test case name will be based on the test variables. Once again, we split the script into its separate steps. And it's ready to no, we've got to remove this one. And we're now ready to generate all the scripts with the Trantor main test scripts. You see we've generated 5 scripts. That's the one original and 4 with 1 for each row of the example. And the cross-reference file now contains each of the 5 scripts test cases with the different requirements. You can see that only requirement 2, 3, and 6 have actually been exercised in this test.